Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to Running Commentary number 132. On this beautiful day in Central Park, New York City. Chaim Malevsky here, about family programs. Here with an internal view at Jacob's ladder and the dream. So, diving right into it. In this week's Torah portion, Vayeitzei, Jacob, our forefather, is on his way back. He's on his way away from home because of last week's Torah portion, where his brother threatened to kill him, and someone's singing. Someone's happy. Anyway, so in a New York minute, you get a Dvar Torah and a song. So Yaakov is on his way, and he sees to Israel, and he falls asleep. He goes, lays down to rest. We put some stones around him, and he has this famous dream. In the dream is a ladder. The ladder has angels. He sees angels going up and coming down, as the Torah describes it. V'hinei malachei Elokim olim v'yordim bo. Angels of God are going up and coming down on the ladder. So Rashi, the famous classic biblical commentator, talks about this, and Rashi always resolves the obvious questions in the text. That's his job. So what's the obvious question here? Rashi addresses it, is that angels usually go, our understanding is that angels are in heaven and they should be coming down first. But in the story, the dream, it says that the angels are going up and then they're coming down. So Rashi explains this to say, and there's many other meanings, deeper understandings of what this whole angel story is. But in this take, Rashi explains that the angels of outside of Israel are coming, they're protecting Yaakov, and now they're leaving, they're going back up to heaven. And then the angels from inside Israel are coming down to protect Yaakov on his journey inside, because there are different angels with different roles. And these angels from outside of Israel couldn't enter Israel, and the ones inside Israel couldn't leave Israel. That's the Rashi. The Rebbe cites a story about another great holy man known as the Ruzhiner. The Ruzhiner was a Rebbe in his own right, one of the Hasidic dynasties of Ruzhin, follower of the Baal Shem Tov. And when he was 4 or 5 years old, as he would learn the Chumash, the Torah portions, with his melamed, with his teacher, he had this uncanny accuracy. He would always ask Rashi's question and always come up with an answer, or explore it at least. This time, when he was learning the story about the angels in Yaakov's dream on that ladder going up and down, his melamed, his teacher, was waiting for him to ask the obvious question, but he didn't. So this 4 or 5 year old boy is continuing to learn the next verse, the next pasuk, and his melamed, his teacher, finally says, okay, I think his name was Yisrael of Ruzhin. He says, can you please tell me what's the problem over here that you kind of missed, that you should have told me, you should have asked about, that Rashi addresses here? He looks back at the pasuk and he says, there's no problem. So finally, his melamed, his teacher, tells him the obvious problem. Angels, figuratively, are in heaven, and over here in the story, the Torah describes that they're first going up and then coming down. So it should be the reverse. They should first come down and then go up. The originator responds, says, it's not a problem, it's not a question, because it was a dream. And in dreams, things can happen in the reverse order. Not a problem. If it would happen in real life, I would have asked that question. But since it's a dream, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who goes up or who comes down first. So that was his response. It's an interesting story, and there's meaning and messages for that too, but not for our take today. In our story, the Rebbe takes us further and asks about Rashi. He says, but Rashi's response seemingly doesn't resolve another issue. Another issue is as follows. Well, Rashi's response is that the angels outside of Israel left because they finished their job. So too the angels of inside Israel came down to protect him. Says Rashi, there's another problem. The Rebbe explains there's another issue, and that is as follows. There's a verse in the Torah. It says, V'zarach Hashemesh uva Hashemesh. That the sun rose and the sun set. First rise and then set. The Talmud, the Gemara, and the Midrash talk about this at length. And the Talmud quotes a whole series of situations in which this applies. And they say that first the sun rises. Only afterwards does the sun set. And they explain it in regards to people, the leaders of the Jewish people that God places in the world. It says first God provides a leader, and only afterwards will, God forbid, a leader pass on. The new leader will always come before the old one passes on. And that's what, and it gives examples like before Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, Joshua was appointed or was available. And so too after Joshua, before he passed away, his successor was already there, etc., etc. So too says the Rebbe over here, that when a protection, Yaakov's protection from the angelic protection was leaving, it shouldn't be that first the angel goes away, leaves Yaakov protectionless, even if it's for a moment, and then the angel comes down. So the question is, the Rebbe says, why does it say? It can't be that way. The Rebbe is not questioning the text, but he's saying that it must have happened at least simultaneously, that the angels switched spaces instantaneously, that there was no lapse of coverage, of insurance coverage, of protection. Okay, so that said, the Rebbe continues on and says, why does the Torah say first, Olim, that the angels are going up and then coming down? If it was simultaneous, it could have said it coming down and then going up, and no one would ask any questions. And here the Rebbe says a novel thing. The Rebbe explains the difference between an angel and a soul of a Jew while it's invested in the body. And he says as follows. He says the angels are holy beings, but they're limited, and they have their specific confined borders in which they were created. They were created a certain way with certain borders and limitations, and they will never surpass them. They're like holy robots. They're given a mission, they do it perfectly, flawlessly, but they can't go beyond. There's no growth in angels. In stark contrast, a Jew is sent back, a soul sent down from heaven into a body, and there's a continuous progression of growth and leaps and bounds from one confined to a greater one, to a greater one, to a greater one, and we can continue to grow higher and higher, and it's windier and windier. And I didn't bring my microphone that has the wind proof, so I hope you can still hear me. So the Rebbe says that a difference between an angel and a Jew. There's an angel, there's an omitted, it stands, it's set in one way and it can't change it. A Jew can always rise higher and higher, and it grows from strength to strength. And he's given that power from, and the Rebbe quoted some of the verses in the same story of Yaakov, and in this experience with a dream. V'hine Hashem nitzav alav. Behold, God standing over him. The God is the God, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. It's the infinite God that is above nature, that gives us the power to surpass, to rise above the ladder. The Rebbe says that angels were stuck on that ladder. They couldn't go on, or they couldn't get off the ladder. They don't go above the ladder. Their steps are measured by that ladder. But a Jew rises above that ladder with the help of God. And then, as Yaakov said, V'haya Hashem li Elokim, V'haya Havaya li Elokim, and God will be God, the Havaya, the Yud, the name that represents the infinite God, that unites past, present, and future. V'haya Havaya li, that God will be for me, Elokim, my personal God. The word Elokim also has the numerical value of Hateva, of the nature. So over here, Yaakov is saying that this infinite God will be felt in the nature, in the finite, in my life. The Rebbe says that a Jew has the capacity to rise above the nature when he's connected to the power of the infinite God, and through the enabling that God gives us. And finally, how do we do that? How do we do this all? The Rebbe says we don't just break through borders and boundaries in our own lives, in our personal life, which is important, but in the process of creation, there are 4 categories that are known in creation. There's the inanimate, the mineral, and there's the vegetation, the domim, the tzomeach, then there's the chai, the living, the animals kingdom, and then there's the medaber. Medaber means the speaking, the human. So the Rebbe says not only should a person elevate the human or only the animal by eating kosher food and making a blessing, or the vegetables by doing the same, but also even the inanimate, the mineral, like Yaakov said in that same story. He said, "The ha'even hazot asher samti matzeva," and this stone, which I placed as a monument, Yehi Beis Elokim, it will be the house of God. Said Yaakov, I will make this stone, this rock, into a godly being, into a godly experience. It'll be clear that everything is godly in this world. And to wrap it up, the Rebbe said in that same verse, Hashem, that same experience, God blessed Jacob, he blessed Yaakov, and said, Ufaratzta, and you shall burst forth Yama v'kein v'tzapon v'negba, to all four directions, north, south, east, and west, but not in that order. And you'll burst forth. So the Rebbe asks, why burst forth with power? Why not just go and do what you got to do? So the Rebbe explains that this Ufaratzta, this bursting forth, is a necessary element in our service to God, to help us bring Mashiach. He says there was a time when the Holy Temple stood, when everything was fine and a person could do their service relaxed, naturally, peacefully. But now, when the darkness of the world is great, strong, and the obstacles are strong, and the challenges are great, we need to overcome them with a power that is more than the regular natural service. We need to extend beyond our comfort zone. As the Rebbe explained in the first address that he publicly addressed the Jewish people when he assumed leadership, he said, in the world there's something called shtus. Shtus means foolishness, folly. And That's just folly or foolishness that is not holy. It's unholy folly. But in order to counteract, basically what that means is that sometimes we all do stupid things. Things that our mind and our Torah tells us not to do. So we fall into this unholy foolishness. So too, in order to combat that, we need to have holy foolishness, holy folly. We need to do things in the realm of Kedusha, in the realm of holiness, that are completely illogical. We need to burst the boundaries of logic and do crazy things in a good way. We have to go crazy in a good way, in a holy way. And that's the way we burst through and bring Mashiach, who is also called the burster. So, getting back to the singing soul. That's 1.6 miles right there, from corner to corner. And what she's doing doesn't sound normal, but whatever she's doing, it resonates well about what we're talking about now. She's doing something a little bit crazy, a little bit wild. It's on the edge, it's over the edge, but it's something that she believes in. Obviously believes in it, and she's doing it, if she's not drugged, she's doing it with her soul. And I appreciate that, because this is really kind of a message for us, that we should do crazy things. It don't matter what the people say, people think, they don't know. It's okay, they'll catch on. And the people who really matter, either they'll know or you'll let them know. God bless you. Let's go crazy in a good way. Share.